let's get real for a second. Building a killer gaming rig is really hard. But here's the kicker. Your motherboard choice can make or break your entire setup. Lucky for you, I've been elbow deep in AM5 boards, researching everything from budget beasts to expensive monsters. Do you want to know which ones are actually worth your hard-earned cash? I've narrowed it down to the top 5, and trust me, number 3 is so insane it'll make your jaw hit the floor in the best way possible. Oh, and before you ask, yeah, I've got some pretty sweet deals waiting for you in the description. Seriously, the prices are gonna blow your mind. Kicking off our countdown at number 5, we've got the Gigabyte A620i AX. This little beast is perfect for budget-conscious builders who still want to pack a punch. Priced at just $120, it's a steal for what you're getting. The A620i AX might be small, but it's got some serious tricks up its sleeve. It's rocking 5 55-amp power stages for the V-Core, which is more than enough to handle beasts like the Ryzen 7 7800X3D. Sure, you're not getting any PCI Express 5.0 action here, but let's be real. Do you really need it right now? One slight bummer is that you're limited to a single M.2 slot and 2 SATA ports. But hey, for a compact build, that might be all you need. The USB situation is pretty decent, with 6 USB 3.2 ports and 5 USB 2.0 ports. And don't worry about connectivity. You're still getting that sweet Wi-Fi 6E and 2.5 gigabit LAN. Now, some of you might be thinking, but what about overclocking? Well, with the A620 chipset, CPU overclocking is off the table. But here's the secret sauce. You still get memory overclocking, which is where the real performance gains are at for most users anyway. The I/O panel is pretty basic, with just 4 USB 3.2 ports and 2 USB 2.0 ports, and heads up, there's no pre-installed I/O shield. But come on, at this price point, can you really complain? Moving up the ladder to number 4, we've got the Gigabyte B650i AX. Now, this board is like the cooler, older sibling of the A620i AX we just talked about. It's rocking the B650 chipset, which means CPU overclocking is back on the menu. Price-wise, we're looking at about $40 more than the A620i AX. Is it worth the extra cash? Well, that depends on how much you love messing with your CPU. The VRM setup is the same as its little brother, 5 55-amp power stages for the V-Core. So while you can overclock, don't expect to push your CPU to the moon and back. But here's the kicker though. Apart from the chipset, this board is practically identical to the A620i AX. Same single M.2 slot, same 2 SATA ports, same USB configuration. It's like they took the A620i AX, slapped a B650 sticker on it, and called it a day. So, is it worth the upgrade? If you're a die-hard overclocker who can't resist tweaking every last megahertz out of your CPU, then maybe. But for most folks, you might be better off either saving some cash with the A620i AX or stepping it up to our next contender. Speaking of which, coming in hot at number 3, we've got the board that's going to make your jaw drop, the Gigabyte B650i Aorus Ultra. This bad boy is where things start getting serious, and trust me, it's worth every penny of its $240 price tag. First off, let's talk about power. This board is packing 8 105-amp power stages for the V-Core on a 12-layer PCB. In plain English, it's got more juice than you can imagine. You want to overclock? This board says bring it on. Now, does it have PCIe 5.0 for the main slot? Nah, you're still on 4.0. But here's where things get spicy. The primary M.2 slot is PCI Express 5.0 compatible, and that's not all. You get 2 additional PCIe 4.0 M.2 slots. That's right, 3 M.2 slots on a mini ITX board. Pretty cool, right? USB-wise, you're looking at 8 USB 3.2 ports and 6 USB 2.0 ports. No USB 4, but hey, you can't have everything. And of course, you're getting that sweet Wi-Fi 6E and 2.5 gigabit LAN that we've come to expect. The I/O panel might seem a bit basic at first glance, with just 4 USB 3.2 Type-A ports, 1 Type-C, and 2 USB 2.0 ports, but remember, this is a mini ITX board. Space is at a premium, and Gigabyte has done a solid job of balancing features and size. Coming in at number 2, we've got a board that's going to make you question everything you thought you knew about motherboards. The Asus ROG Strix X670E gaming Wi-Fi. Now, fair warning, this board isn't for the faint-hearted or those watching their wallets closely. At $410, it's by far the most expensive board on our list, but before you start clutching your pearls, let's talk about what you're getting for that price. First off, this is the only X670E mini ITX motherboard we know of. That's right, Asus saw the size limitations of mini ITX and said, "Hold my beer." The result? A board that packs more features than you'd think possible in this form factor. Let's start with the VRM. We're talking a massive 110 amp power stage V-Core VRM. That's enough to power a small country, or, in this case, enough to push your CPU to its absolute limits. And don't worry about heat. The VRM heatsink includes 2 small fans, super quiet. Being an X670E board, you're getting the full PCI Express 5.0 treatment. The main X16 slot, PCI Express 5.0. The primary M.2 slot, also PCIe 5.0. There's an additional PCIe 4.0 M.2 slot too, because Asus knows you can never have too much fast storage. Now let's talk about USB. This board is serving up 2 USB 4 ports, 10 USB 3.2 ports, and 7 USB 2.0 ports. That's more USB than you can shake a stick at. The I/O panel alone has 10 USB ports, including those 2 juicy USB 4 ports. But Asus didn't stop there. They looked at the limited space on the board and thought, you know what? Let's move the audio off board. The result is the ROG Strix Hive, an external audio solution that's so cool, it deserves its own YouTube video. Of course, you're also getting the standard Wi-Fi 6E and 2.5 gigabit LAN, because at this price point, anything less would be insulting. The Asus ROG Strix X670E gaming Wi-Fi is more than a motherboard. It's a statement. It's Asus flexing their engineering muscles and showing the world what's possible in the mini ITX form factor. Is it overkill for most users? Probably. Is it awesome? Absolutely. And now, the number 1 spot on our list goes to the MSI MPG B650i Edge Wi-Fi. Now, I know what you're thinking. Wait, what? How can this be number 1 when we just talked about that insane Asus board? Well, hear me out. Sometimes less is more. And MSI has struck gold with this perfect balance of features and price. Priced at $290, the MPG B650i Edge Wi-Fi sits comfortably in the middle of our price range. It's not cheap, but it's not going to require you to sell a kidney either. And for that price, you're getting a board that ticks all the right boxes. Let's start with the VRM. The V-Core is supported by 8 80-amp power stages. Is it as beastly as the Asus? No. Is it more than enough to handle even the most power-hungry AM5 CPUs? Absolutely. This VRM setup will let you push your CPU to its limits without breaking a sweat. Now, PCI Express 5.0 support is missing here, which might seem like a downside. But let's be real. How many of us are actually using PCI Express 5.0 devices right now? by the time PCIe 5.0 becomes mainstream, you might be ready for an upgrade anyway. Remember, AMD has promised to support AM5 until at least 2027, so this board has plenty of life in it. Storage-wise, you're getting two PCI Express 4.0 M.2 ports. Having that second M.2 slot on a mini ITX board is a big deal, giving you plenty of fast storage options. And if that's not enough, you've got 4 SATA ports, 4, on a mini ITX board. It's like MSI found a way to bend the laws of physics. The USB situation is pretty sweet too. You're looking at 9 USB 3.2 ports and 2 USB 2.0 ports. The pre-installed I/O panel has 6 USB ports total, including a Type-C. It's not the most loaded I/O we've seen, but it's more than enough for most users. And of course, you're getting the standard 2.5 gigabit LAN and Wi-Fi 6E. Because, let's be honest, anything less is just uncivilized. So why is this our top pick? It's all about balance. The MSI MPG B650i Edge Wi-Fi doesn't have the absolute highest specs in any one area, but it nails the features that matter most for real-world usage. It's got the power to handle high-end CPUs, plenty of fast storage options, solid connectivity, and it does it all without costing an arm and a leg. And there you have it, our top 5 AM5 motherboards this year. Remember, for more information and updated prices, check the links in the description box below. And hey, if you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Until next time, happy gaming!